tool does to give you some ideas of where to shade dark, medium, and light. That's another thought about tracing, just for visualization purposes. All right, so I'm going to make a new document, and my lovely new document will be a letter size wide. And I'll paste this, and S for scale, and I will scale this up holding the shift key. We're going to do V for move, and move this guy over a tad, hide, or move this layer panel over. Call it scan, as if I'd scanned it, or photo of elephant or original. And then right away I'll make a new layer, and for the time being I'm going to have that layer be the light gray or medium gray. I'll call it medium gray. And we talked a little bit about this in the past, but just about using pieces to make other pieces. So for me, I don't have to use the pen tool. You don't have to use the pen tool all the time because you have the blob brush. And because our conversation today is right now about how to make things feel more hand done, that's what I'm focusing on. So everything I'm making here on the medium gray layer, I'm not going to make it medium gray when I start. I'm just going to make it blue. I can always change the color later and make the brush really large. You might just want to throw some shapes on there if you think it'll be faster for you, but essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly fill in this whole thing, going really quickly here to make the first shade of color. So you might decide that, all right, that's great, I'm getting going here. I have this big blob. You might decide now, Command minus to zoom out, and that you could save a little time, S for scale, click and drag this, and just make bigger pieces, larger pieces. So here I have copied and pasted a piece. So I'll select two pieces, and you know your friendly Pathfinder is waiting to do its job here of unite. So now that's one shape, right? So again, it's largely up to you in terms of the approach, but getting the brush larger, and here's my brush still getting larger. So you might want to use a combination of pen tool shapes, copying and pasting shapes. And I'm going to focus down here on these back two legs for now. So I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to get the again, make it smaller. This does not have the behavior like a Photoshop brush of allowing you to click and drag. You have to basically, click, and then in Photoshop, if I just click here, I could hold the shift key and click here and they would join. Illustrator does not do that. This is not that kind of paintbrush. So even if I'm rough with this, okay, and I'm like, yeah, I need all that, but I could go and take this medium gray layer. So here's the giveaway here, and go to, don't be afraid of using your appearance panel. Really get into this appearance panel. Here's the appearance panel. And make sure something is selected. That's very helpful. And then if I click on here, opacity, I'll bring this opacity down to 50. And then E for eraser. Really, there's the eraser. And then, I could just as easily use this eraser to clarify that shape. This is me on a trackpad, not a mouse, not a Wacom tablet. Wacom tablet may be something you really want to think about. So you are going to establish in your mind what is medium gray or the medium tone, and I would say conquer that first, and then go in and find the areas or identify the areas that you think are the mid-tone, are the shadows and the highlights. But setting this layer here, the opacity on 50, maybe not even easier to see enough, and then here. So that's how I use the eraser, is by building up shapes and erasing so that I don't have to be so precise with the pen tool or even the brush tool. And as I mentioned, I've just always been a big fan of erasing. as a thing, you know. And so I'll put that up to 100. And then I may or may not even show that layer when I add the next bit of content, which might be the highlights. So I'll click away, add a new layer, call this one highlights. And then hide this medium gray layer, take a whole different color so I can see what I'm doing here. I'll use orange, zoom in using the zoom tool, and then again the blob brush here. I wish that it was not so slow to have to keep resizing these things, but that's life. And so that's all there, right? And then again, I'll meatball that. I will go to the appearance panel and change this down to and then essentially how I feel about it is that the eraser? No. Is like I'm carving. I feel like I'm carving away that part. And then eventually, after I've built up all those 3 layers, and I'm really happy about the midtones, the highlights, and the shadow detail all being set the way I want them to be. These I'm not selecting. Click. Hold the shift key down. I should be able to change this fill back to what? Select. I'm selecting that piece. It is not letting me fix that. Now that's a new one. All right, so here's what I am encountering. Do you notice what's happening here? Do you see what's going wrong? Like what's confusing me?
Mm-hmm. It says 100.
It says 100%, and I changed it. So here, if I click that layer, I clicked on the meatballer here, that circle. Now it says 28. Now life is improving once again. It's up and down, guys, up and down. Keep riding through it. Right, so then eventually that would probably want to be white or light gray, so I'll make it a light gray. And then, of course, switching the meatball settings here, that's now selected blue. And I will continue in that semi-transparent layering tactic, you know, for a day. It can really yield beautiful results. So that's blob brush and eraser.
That's eraser can use to the pen tool.
Yes, any shape can be erased. Yes. So if I take the pen here and I draw here, making sure I'm on the medium gray layer, I'm clicking that, making sure I'm there. And so here, if I'm going to click and drag to create this graceful moving leg. So for me, why, just kind of bouncing off what Dana had commented earlier, why do I find the pen tool easier and easier is because I'm able to think about everything I draw as a series of curves. And I'm looking to click on the highs and lows of the curves, the apexes and the shadows and the valleys. And as I look at those curves, I'm discovering or figuring out as I go where I'm going to click. So here again, pen tool, click, and here I'll just get this little bit in here. And if you draw with the same color, all right, the tusk, just cranking this out quickly, guys. I'm not even trying to do a great job, but I'm looking for the highs and lows. Where are the long curves? Drag long. Drag longer. Or I know I've said it before, approximately the handles, the things that jet out or jut out, will equal on either side of an anchor point approximately total 2/3 of the total curve, or each being approximately 1/3. It may not be exactly each side 1/3. It depends on the trajectory of the curve. So now I have that much. Didn't join it, and now it's joined. Okay, and then click. Shift click, I want all these to be one piece, and so now they are not acting like one piece. I want to make sure that they are merged, truly merged. What's up? This piece and this piece. I want you to merge. Now they're merged. Okay, so I think it merged. There was 3, so it merged the first 2, and then I merged the second 2. And yes, of course, the eraser and the blob brush, you can still come back with the blob and blobify over here. I need to have this selected though to get the same color and to continue with my blob brush. And so I'm blobbing through here, and it's actually attaching that to that shape. Okay, and then again, select, change the opacity to 50% and continue. So then I would eventually, after I've midtone, highlight and shadow, I might have medium shadow or something between the highlight and the midtone. So you might even call it eventually black, white, dark gray, medium gray, light gray. So the midtones you might split eventually from just midtones into a darker and a lighter version. So I hope that's helpful about the eraser tool. That's how I use it.